Hello, hello. Welcome to the stream. My name is Travis at Traverse Music here, and today we are going to work on changing out some tuners. A little more complicated than we think it's going to be. I chose this Gibson specifically because a customer's got it in for me to change the tuners on it, and there's also some holes we're going to have to fill, and there's a few different ways we can do that, and it's not something you have to do. It's just something a lot of people want to do because they don't want the guitar to look different. They don't want those holes super obvious and visible. There's just several different ways we can take care of plugging that. Um, it already was actually, sorry, they actually already had the tuners replaced on it once. These are not the stock Grovers that come with it. These are locking ones. And he has another Gibson Les Paul that he's going to end up putting these on. And he likes these tulip shaped ones, which are really cool. I love the shape too. So he wants the tulip ones on here, and then we're going to take these and put them on a different one. We're not going to show that process. But these were already replaced. So we're not going to take off the original tuners, which is fine. The process is going to be pretty much the same. There's just an extra screw on original ones. And then we'll go from there. Hey, Barry. Awesome. Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. I put a lot of time into those. So um, let's go for our top-down view real quick here. And let's take a look at the back of this headstock. All right. I'll get you more in the middle so you can zoom in there on the headstock, please. And if you don't know, I got my buddy Everly helping me out. He's my producer. That's so shiny. So shiny. So glossy. Glossy, glossy Gibson. All right. So right here we have these holes. And that's from the previous tuners. So there's a screw on the top and a screw on bottom on all those previous tuners. That's what we're not going to have on, well, that's what we're going to try to fill. So had the old tuners been on, we would be taking out two screws. For this video, we're taking out only one screw. So I'm going to flip this back over. The first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to loosen up the nuts on here. There's a few tools to use. These little T-handles are fantastic. This is a 10 mil. These are going to be 10 mil. Yes, okay. Probably should have checked that beforehand. These are really nice to use. Also, just a 10 mil little wrench. This is just one that I use from StewMac. I really like it because of how thin it is. It's magnetic too, so I could slap it up on stuff and not worry about it. Also, with how thin it is, it fits these really flat nuts very easily. So I'm going to loosen these nuts up. The reason why I want to loosen these nuts first is because if we take that screw out, the tuner may actually spin around. So if that tuner is spinning around in there, it's going to be harder to loosen this nut. Not impossible, just, work smarter, not harder. Yep, that's not going to work until we get get that new pot in. Remember, I told you that that's the one that's broken. I'm liking the crowd we have today. I'm digging that. So, welcome, George. Another really important thing when we're replacing these, which is I'm just thinking about it now, is having a proper screwdriver to both unscrew and screw in the screws. If you don't have a properly sized screwdriver, these tiny screws on the back here will strip. And I am going to get this thing on an angle because that glare has got to be annoying. Much better. I use my StewMac toolkit. I think it's fantastic. It's got all the bits that I've pretty much needed. It's been fantastic. No, the whole thing's not going to work. Essentially, it's basically burned out, which means unless it's basically burned out, wide open is basically the only thing you're going to get with that pot until a new one comes in. So nothing's going to function. It's basically just as is, the volume is all the way up. You're not going to be able to change volume. You're not going to be able to push pull. It's not going to do anything because what's going on inside there. So that's why I want to replace that one. Um, Anyways, I was saying the right screwdriver does a lot, especially with these Grover locking tuners. The actual circle to lock the string in is bigger than the tuner, and it's quite annoying when you're trying to use a full size screwdriver to screw that in because you constantly hit that wheel or that grip. So unless you have a really thin screwdriver to get in there, it's going to stink. Also, just the actual tip of your screwdriver matters immensely because these are so small and they strip so easily. If you don't have that working perfectly or fitting perfectly, you're going to strip these out. You're not going to be able to screw them in properly. You're not going to be able to screw them out. So it looks like whoever, which I didn't see this before, whoever replaced these tuners actually did try to fill in the holes a little bit here. We're going to patch that up and make that look a little nicer. Just ever so slightly nicer. Um, when we are filling holes, there's a lot of different ways to go. There's the toothpick method is the most common, and that's what I'm going to use for sure. But even after that, how do we match color? How do we do all that? And it's really a whole bunch of things we can think about. If we're going to match color exactly, we're going to need to use paint. We're not going to match color exactly today. We're going to match color kind of, and we're going to use not only so we're not going to have to use paint, and then we're also going to use super glue to fill these holes. And again, it looks like somebody did fill this. It's kind of tough to tell. Let's see if we can get the front camera zoomed in on this. Zoom, zoom. Zoom, zoom. All right, yeah, get in there nice and tight. Right by Lando. Get Lando in there too. Yeah, yeah, gotta get Lando. Here we go. Lando Calrissian. But somebody filled these. It looks like they took a toothpick, filled it in, and then like drew a little red marker on there, which is fine. It's not perfectly flat. What I'm going to actually do is I'm just going to take a screwdriver and I'm just going to poke a little indent in that toothpick because it's very soft material. Toothpicks, they're quite strong. They're great for filling holes, but you can actually push that in a little bit. And what I'm going to do then is fill that with a brown or an amber colored super glue that's going to match this much better. It's also going to dry and harden. What that's going to help prevent, it's not going to definitely prevent it, but it might help prevent any of the lacquer chipping away from this circle because that glue is going to help hold that in there. So we can go back to the top down, get my angle back. So we have an amber, we have a dark brown, and I think the amber is going to work the best because that's not a dark brown at all, obviously. So this is medium viscosity super glue, technically CA. This is sold by Sumac again. What's great about this is that it's pre-colored super glue. You don't have to try to find a tint that doesn't react poorly with the super glue. So we got to find one more tool to help us out here. There we are. This is the last thing we need. I don't remember what it's called. I just call it like a whip. Um, we're going to put this on top of the super glue. It's going to create just a really small hole for the glue to come out of so that we have precision when putting glue in the hole. So I mentioned poking these toothpick areas down a little bit. We are going to do that with another StewMac attachment. This one is just the one with the little screwdriver. I'm just going to poke a little. And I can already feel the lacquer coming up on a couple of these holes, so it's actually probably good we're doing this. You can see it coming up. Around here, you see the discolor around that. That's the lacquer pulling away. You have the lacquer pulling away here. I haven't even touched it yet, but you can see that there. Is that as zoomed as we're going to get for our top down, bud? Oh, fantastic. Yeah. I thought I would get closer. Right. So we have a little indent for the super glue to go into. A couple nice things that's going to happen here is the toothpick that's in there is going to help, it's going to absorb some of the glue, which will be nice. And we're going to be left with a nice little bubble on top. We're going to let this dry for a little bit, which means we could chat about other stuff while that's happening. And then we're going to just scrape it down so that it's flush with the rest of the headstock. And I'm going to show you a really safe way to do that too. So I always start my glue over the garbage because I want to make sure that that tip is not going to come flying off. It is not. So drop of glue. And you might find that you fill these holes a couple times because, again, that toothpick's going to absorb this glue. It's only medium viscosity. So it is pretty absorbent. It's pretty absorbable. And that's already starting to soak in on quite a few of those, so I'm going to add a little more. And I do it so there's a nice bubble on top. We can get rid of that bubble. Don't worry about that bubble. Fantastic. So I put about 3 drops in each one, and we're waiting on that bubble. Let's try to get that. Let's get that front camera to zoom in and see if we can see a side view and see the actual super glue bubble. That would be my arm, good sir. Massive biceps. Yes. Super zoom. Excellent. There we go. I move. So actually that looks really great. So we actually have one that's already soaked in again. But we see the bubbles on the other ones. So we're going to go ahead and add another drop. And let that soak in. So again, what we're doing, the reason why we're doing this is not because it looked bad or anything like that. It's to show you guys at home how you can fill a hole. Again, normally we would have thrown a toothpick in there first, which is already in there, so we don't have to worry about that. After that, we're going to put our super glue on there, and our super glue is going to help hold that lacquer, which is already starting to peel because it wasn't glued in last time. It's already starting to peel around those circles, and we don't want that to peel more. So while we're waiting for that, I'd love it if anybody's got any questions, feel free to shoot away. I'm glad to see a couple new people here in the chat. Also, I just want to point out we have a Patreon page now, and we have a couple other things going on where we have some merch now, and we have our Facebook page, if you haven't liked that yet, too, going on. We started a Discord also, so we have that up and running as well. So, hey, Jeff, welcome. Welcome, welcome. Nice to see. I think you're a new face in here, so I don't think I've seen you in the chat before. So welcome. If you guys got ideas for streams going on next week, so I'm going to start streaming every single Wednesday. And to be completely honest with you, I had no idea what I was doing with the stream up until about 15 minutes before I started the stream. Might explain why I said so many times. But I'm always looking for ideas for other streams. So if you're working on a project at home and you're like, hey, I'm doing this, can you do this on your stream next week so I know how to do it? Absolutely, right? That's the whole point of what we're doing here. So we really want to try to just show as much as we can for people at home that want to work on their guitars, or people at home that are just interested in seeing how other people work on guitars. I know a lot of people that love seeing this stuff and don't even work on guitars themselves. So a lot of these tips and tricks might be somewhere else on the internet. A lot of the stuff that I do is like a combination of like 10 different luthiers that I've talked to and seen or watched work. And I picked what I liked the most out of all of them and started kind of combining what I think the best techniques were. So this is one that I've seen a few people do, and I really like it. The next technique is actually going to be from a gentleman at StewMac. Um, when we start scraping the glue, when I show you that technique, that's gonna be pretty great. Fantastic technique for scraping stuff down. It's just great to know about little secrets like that. If you have a chip on the side of your fretboard and stuff like that, we can do this exact same thing with this super glue to fill in that chip if that's bothering you, if you can feel it. I had a gentleman who runs a recording studio down the road, David, come in last, oh, actually, it was like 2 days ago, and he had a chip coming off on the side of his fretboard, and I just put it was very small, very thin. So I just literally took wipe on CA, wipe on super glue from StewMac, wiped it on there. We waited about 15 minutes for it to dry, and then I sanded it, and then I just did a quick buff with a micro mesh, wiped it down with some StewMac buff polish, and it was good to go. It took us about 30 minutes, even including the dry time, to fix it, and he couldn't feel it. It was like it was never even happened. The best part about that is it's also going to help prevent it from chipping more. So that's what's the most important thing. So again, if you guys got ideas for streams, please let me know. So I'm always looking for new stuff. This has gotten pretty dry by now. It's not as dry as I want it to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some accelerant. I have any left? Go get one more can. We'll be right back. Hang tight. Sorry about that. So I had to get more accelerant on there, and I had to find this special tool, a razor blade. Um, Fantastic tool to have in your shop, along with tape. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a piece of tape on the side of the razor blade, just like this. Keep in mind, this is a brand new razor blade too. This hasn't been used or anything like that. We want it nice and sharp. We're going to put it on both sides like that. What we've done is we've created this protective barrier here and here on this blade. So now, if I run this blade on this back of this headstock, it's not going to touch the lacquer. See that? I can comfortably do that. This way too. I'm not worried about scratching this up because we have just this ever so slight raise from that razor, which means we can now scrape off these pieces of glue. So I'm going to try to zoom in real quick. Let's go with this one right here. So we can see that bump. Actually, this might be a better one. We can see this bump really well. What we're going to do is we're just going to start scraping away at that. Now it's level. And now we have a perfectly flush, filled in hole that was all glue. And now everything is flush and sealed. We just got to do that for every other hole. And you will both feel and hear when you're done with that. So big difference between those two, huh? So again, our color doesn't match perfectly. There's a couple reasons. For one, there's red behind this from the last person that put red in there. Two, we didn't paint or anything. We could have painted. That was another option. If we paint and then we put either a lacquer on the top or CA on the top. This was quite tough. But the tinted CAs from StewMac are really fantastic. They just eliminate the need to do your fill unless it's absolutely like super critical, a high-end guitar, or the customer just really wants it not to see that stuff at all. We can go ahead and do that. Now with this guitar, you saw that there was already finish starting to peel and everything. We're never going to get that looking great without taking the finish completely off and relacquering that, and it's just not worth it. Every once in a while, I will inspect the razor to make sure that the tape doesn't go through on here. Always a good thing to check. Also working very small. See, I'm not moving this much. I should open it up to the camera here. I'm not moving this much. Very small spaces. And the reason why is we don't want to run the taped edge off the side of the neck because then we don't have that balance anymore. This one we got to hit at this angle. There we go. Ev, you want to come feel that? See how smooth that is? Can't do the face reveal though, remember. Pretty cool, huh? I forgot we were going to give you a mic. It's dangerous. Next week we'll do the mic. So it's as simple as that. It's really not that difficult. It's a matter of practicing that whole scenario out. Um, the first few times you do it, it's really scary, quite honestly. You have, especially if you're using like a Gibson like that, you're putting a razor blade on finish, and it's terrifying to do. So, all right. Excuse me. What I like to do now is just start slapping tuners on, and again, we know these fit. We don't have much to worry about with these. These won't take long. Slide on, and because we had Crovers in there before, the holes are going to line up. Fantastic. These washers are beveled, so make sure that you have the correct um, side up. 3x3 tuners, I'm sure you know, but they only go on one side as well, so that's a thing. And I crank them on about hand tight. We'll do more after we get the screw in there. We don't have to worry about lining this up again, things like that, because we have a hole already. So pretty easy 1-2 swap. Most of the time, your tuner holes are going to line up. If you're ever wondering if a tuner is going to line up properly, you can always ask me. Or you can actually ask manufacturers of the tuners, hey, will this fit in this guitar? And a lot of them will let you know. Um, Most of the time, if you have like one hole underneath, it's going to match. One hole underneath on another brand matches most of the time, not all of the time. Another thing that you need to think about too is actually the shaft diameter as well, because not all tuners have the same shaft diameter. And we want to make sure that we don't have to drill the holes bigger, or we don't have tuners that are so small they're moving around in the hole here. So, two very important things. Alrighty. So another thing I had mentioned before, I'm just going to reiterate, the right screwdriver tip goes a long, long way. You're going to notice that when I put these screws in, it's going to be fairly easy. The other nice little trick, if I have it nearby, which I do not, if these are brand new holes that we just drilled, I would highly recommend putting wax on your screws. Screw wax is very cheap, but also very easy to lose, apparently. But if it was a brand new hole, it would be kind of a tight fit that screw wax will help get these screws in there a little easier, and it's just less chance of stripping out that screw head. But you saw how easy that went in. That was fantastic. One down, two down. So if we think about this, taking the old tuners off would have taken about the same amount of time. We would have had to take out an extra screw, even if we add 5 minutes onto that. If we had to put toothpicks in there, it's a matter of putting a dab of wood glue on the end of the toothpick and putting it in there and cutting the hole off, cutting it off at the tip of the guitar, right? That would add, so we've added maybe 10 minutes if we had that stuff to do. Um, Other than that, not only have we replaced these tuners, but we also properly filled and put finish over all the holes as to not allow the finish to break off anymore. And we've done all this in about 30 minutes, which is just insane. It does not take that long. I did use an accelerator on the glue. That is cheating. I will tell you right now, glue accelerant's fantastic. If we cared at all about the color of everything, we would not have used that accelerant. That accelerant can discolor stuff. It could also cause bubbles if you use it too soon on too thick of a piece of super glue. It will tend to bubble up sometimes on occasion, which will allow you not to scrape it down very evenly, or sometimes even cause bubbles down to where you had scraped it and stuff like that. So accelerant's great if you use it wisely. But that is that on there. Flip this bad boy over. Huh, I forgot to put that guy in there. What happens when you're talking and working at the same time? I saw the extra one sitting on the bench, and I'm like, wow, they threw an extra one in there. Cool. Never know when you'll need that. They do that on occasion, though. Yeah, yeah, and they did leave an extra screw. So like they do leave extra parts on occasion, especially the screws because those always get stripped out. So how tight is too tight? If you broke the headstock, it's too tight. Uh, what I like to do, and I think I shared this in the last one, is this is still loose, but one finger, once that starts to get a little tight, that's plenty. That's not going anywhere. So I want finger tight, and I'm giving a not even a quarter turn after finger tight, maybe a quarter turn. But you don't want to crank it, like, don't wrench that down. Is there a chance that they might loosen up? Yes, but in between every string change, you should be checking them and giving them a little tighten if they need it. But that's as simple as that. So the best part about this whole thing, again, is the fact that we saw the finish starting to crack on this stuff, and adding just that little bit of super glue and taking that extra 15 minutes that it took us to do that is really going to help save this headstock. Um, if you have any questions about it, feel free to ask away, comments or anything like that. The only thing we're doing to this guitar then is going to restring it and set it up. We do have an SG setup video. Actually, it's a three-parter that goes into extreme depth on how to set up an SG guitar, but it has the same bridge and it has the same tailpiece as well. So you can watch that and use that for your Les Paul also. So if you're looking for a setup video, we can do something like that. If you want to see it done on a live stream, we can certainly do that as well. Show all the measurements and all that stuff. Break out the rulers and do a pristine, very, very thorough setup, which is what we do here at Traverse Music. We don't do the eyeballing thing. We're measuring everything we possibly can. So other than that, a successful tuner installation, no chips, no cracks, nothing we had to worry about. We didn't have to drill anything out, which is really nice. I will install some tuners where we do have to do that eventually. So if that is something you want to see, go ahead and comment below. Check out our links below as well. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out anytime. Thanks so much. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Take care. Have a great week.